They strapped Maya Volkov to the cryo-chamber at precisely midnight, expecting her body temperature to drop to near-death levels within minutes, but instead her blood began to burn at temperatures that should have killed her instantly, turning her veins into rivers of liquid fire that would consume everything they thought they knew about human biology. The men who had kidnapped the brilliant thermodynamics engineer from her Moscow apartment had no idea they were about to witness the birth of something that would redefine the laws of physics. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Dr. Alexei Kozlov watched the temperature readings on his monitors with growing confusion and terror. The cryogenic chamber was pumping liquid nitrogen at -196 degrees Celsius directly onto Maya's restrained body, but her internal temperature was climbing rather than falling. The readings showed impossible numbers: 45, 50, 60 degrees Celsius and rising steadily. At these temperatures her blood should have been boiling, her brain should have shut down, and her cellular structure should have been cooking from the inside out. Maya's consciousness drifted in and out of awareness as the experimental procedure progressed, but she could feel something fundamental changing in her body's chemistry. The cold that should have been killing her felt like a gentle breeze, while her circulatory system seemed to be generating its own heat source that grew stronger with each attempt to freeze her. Through the frost-covered glass of the chamber, she could see the shocked faces of her captors, their scientific confidence crumbling as their equipment registered readings that violated every known law of biology. The facility, hidden deep in the Ural Mountains, had been designed for the most extreme forms of human experimentation. Built during the Cold War and recently reactivated by a private military corporation called Arctic Solutions, it specialized in developing enhanced soldiers capable of surviving in the harshest environments. Maya had been selected not just for her expertise in thermal dynamics, but because her genetic profile suggested she might survive procedures that would kill ordinary subjects. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Roman Petrov, the facility's military commander, paced behind the observation window as Maya's body temperature continued to climb. He had overseen dozens of enhancement experiments, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for what was happening in the cryo-chamber. "How is she still conscious?" he demanded, his scarred face reflecting the red warning lights that had begun flashing throughout the laboratory. Dr. Kozlov, a former Soviet scientist who had spent decades perfecting techniques for human cryopreservation, was equally baffled. His procedures had been tested on hundreds of subjects, with varying degrees of success, but never had he encountered a subject whose body actively fought against freezing by generating its own heat. "Her cellular structure appears to be converting the thermal shock into energy," he explained, though his voice carried the uncertainty of someone whose fundamental understanding of science was being challenged. Maya's background as a thermodynamics engineer at Moscow Technical University had made her an ideal candidate for Arctic Solutions experiments. Her research into heat transfer and energy conversion had caught the attention of military contractors who believed her knowledge could be used to create soldiers capable of surviving Arctic warfare. When she refused to cooperate with their recruiting efforts, they had simply taken her by force. The kidnapping had been professionally executed. Maya was walking home from her laboratory late one evening when a van pulled alongside her on the quiet street. 3 men in tactical gear had emerged, injected her with a sedative, and bundled her into the vehicle before any passers-by could react. She had awakened 12 hours later in a cell deep underground, where Dr. Kozlov had explained that she would be participating in research that would revolutionize military capabilities. Now, as the cryo-chamber systems began to malfunction from the heat Maya's body was generating, it became clear that the experiment had produced results no one had anticipated. The liquid nitrogen that should have been freezing her solid was vaporizing on contact with her skin, creating clouds of steam that obscured the chamber's interior. The temperature sensors were registering readings that exceeded their maximum calibration. Maya's enhanced consciousness allowed her to perceive the molecular changes occurring throughout her body. Her hemoglobin seemed to have been transformed into something that could store and conduct thermal energy like a biological heating element. Her heart was pumping blood that glowed with its own internal light, visible through her translucent skin as networks of fire spreading through her circulatory system. The most disturbing aspect of Maya's transformation was her growing awareness that the heat generation was not just a biological anomaly, but something she could consciously control. As her anger at her captors intensified, the temperature readings spiked dramatically. When she focused on the restraints holding her to the examination table, the metal began to glow red-hot, weakening, until she could break free with minimal effort. Dr. Kozlov's attempts to sedate Maya proved futile as his drugs evaporated before they could enter her bloodstream. The injection needles melted when they came into contact with her superheated skin, and the anesthetic gases were neutralized by the intense heat radiating from her body. "She's becoming a living furnace," he reported to Commander Petrov. "We need to evacuate the laboratory before the entire facility catches fire." But Maya was already beyond their control. The cryo-chamber that was supposed to be her prison had become her chrysalis, transforming her from a captive scientist into something that existed outside the normal parameters of human biology. As she sat up in the chamber, her hair floating around her head like flames, Maya realized that her captors had inadvertently given her the power to turn their own weapons against them. The facility's fire suppression systems activated automatically as Maya's body temperature reached levels that triggered every thermal sensor in the building. Sprinkler systems released thousands of gallons of water that instantly converted to steam when it contacted her skin, creating a fog that obscured everything beyond a few feet. Emergency alarms blaring throughout the complex, as the staff realized they were dealing with a threat unlike anything they had encountered before. Maya's first conscious use of her new abilities was simple but effective. She reached out and touched the reinforced steel door of the cryo-chamber. The metal began to glow and warp under the intense heat, ultimately melting away like candy. As she stepped through the smoking remains of her prison, Maya felt the full scope of her transformation settling into her consciousness. They had tried to freeze her into submission, but instead they had created something that could burn their entire world to the ground. Maya's escape from the cryo-chamber marked the beginning of a rampage that would test every fire suppression system in the facility. As she walked through the laboratory corridors, her bare feet left smoldering footprints in the reinforced concrete, while her touch could melt through steel bulkheads designed to contain nuclear accidents. Dr. Kozlov and his team scrambled to evacuate their research data, while Commander Petrov coordinated a military response to contain what he was already calling the thermal anomaly. The first casualties occurred when 3 security guards attempted to subdue Maya with conventional weapons. Their bullets melted before reaching her skin, while their tactical gear caught fire from proximity to her superheated body. Maya felt no satisfaction from their suffering, only a cold determination to escape the facility and expose the illegal experience that had transformed her into a living weapon. Dr. Irina Volkov, Maya's sister and a molecular biologist at the Kremlin Institute, received an encrypted message that would change her understanding of everything she thought she knew about human biology. The message, sent from Maya's facility identification card before it melted from the heat, contained detailed biometric readings and a desperate plea. "They tried to freeze me, but something went wrong. My blood is burning at 500 degrees Celsius and I can't control it. Find Dr. Mikhail Reznov at Moscow University. He knows about the experiment." Maya's rampage through the facility revealed the true scope of Arctic Solutions' research program. Laboratory after laboratory contained evidence of human enhancement experiments that had been conducted on unwilling subjects for years. Cryogenic chambers held the frozen bodies of failed test subjects, while incubation tanks contained biological samples that suggested the researchers had been attempting to create enhanced humans with various environmental adaptations. Commander Petrov's emergency protocols included a lockdown procedure that sealed the facility's exits with blast doors designed to contain chemical weapons attacks. But Maya's thermal abilities made conventional containment methods ineffective. She simply placed her hands on the massive steel bit and watched them melt away like ice cream in summer heat. The facility's automated systems registered Maya's body temperature as continuing to climb, now exceeding 600 degrees Celsius in her core regions, while her skin maintained a more moderate. These readings should have been impossible for a living, yet Maya's consciousness remained clear and her cognitive functions appeared. Kozlov's final experiment notes dictated her. Cellular structure appears to have been fundamentally altered at the molecular level. Her hemoglobin has been replaced by an unknown compound that can store and conduct thermal energy without cellular damage. This represents a complete rewrite of human biology. Maya's encounter with the facility's liquid nitrogen storage tanks provided the first hint of how her abilities might be controlled. Instead of being affected by the extreme cold, Maya found that contact with cryogenic materials actually amplified her heat generation. The nitrogen tanks exploded in massive fireballs as her thermal field destabilized the contained gases, creating secondary explosions that began to compromise the facility's structural integrity. The underground complex had been built to withstand conventional attacks, but Maya's heat generation was causing expansion and contraction in the steel framework that created stress fractures throughout the building. Sections of the facility began to collapse as support beams warped under thermal stress, trapping personnel and destroying years of research data. Maya's enhanced awareness allowed her to perceive the facility's layout through thermal imaging that had somehow become part of her sensory capabilities. She could see heat signatures of hiding personnel through solid walls and detect the warmth of electronic systems that might contain valuable information about other enhancement programs. Commander Petrov's final communication with his superiors before evacuating the facility painted a grim picture. The thermal anomaly has achieved complete containment breach. Subject appears to be actively hunting facility personnel and destroying research infrastructure. Conventional weapons ineffective. Recommend immediate tactical nuclear response to prevent escape. But Maya was already beyond the reach of conventional military solutions. Her body had adapted to generate protective thermal fields that could vaporize incoming projectiles before they reached her skin. When Petrov's remaining security team attempted to use flamethrowers against her, Maya absorbed the additional heat and redirected it back at them with interest. Dr. Reznov, the Moscow University researcher mentioned in Maya's message, was already en route to the facility when it began to collapse. His research into thermodynamic mutations had been classified for decades, but Maya's transformation represented the successful completion of theoretical work he had abandoned as too dangerous to pursue. Maya's escape from the underground facility occurred when her thermal generation finally exceeded the structural tolerances of the mountain itself. The rock formations above the complex began to fracture and melt, creating a volcanic-like eruption that could be seen from orbit. Maya emerged from the devastation like a phoenix rising from its own ashes, her body now radiating heat that could be felt from hundreds of meters away. The satellite imagery of Maya's emergence showed a human figure walking through molten rock as if it were ordinary pavement. Her thermal signature was so intense that infrared cameras couldn't focus on her properly, creating a glowing silhouette that looked more like a solar flare than a human being. Maya's first priority after escaping the facility was to contact her sister Irina and warn her about Arctic Solutions' broader research program. But her transformed state made normal communication impossible. Electronic devices malfunctioned in her presence, and her voice now carried harmonics that could shatter glass and disrupted radio frequencies. As Maya began her journey toward Moscow, leaving a trail of melted snow and scorched earth behind her, she faced the realization that her transformation had made her incompatible with normal human society. Her body temperature was still climbing, and she had no way of knowing if there was an upper limit to her thermal generation or if she would eventually burn so hot that she would become a danger to everyone around her. The news reports began within hours of the facility's destruction, describing seismic activity and unexplained thermal anomalies in the Ural Mountains. Government officials dismissed speculation about military experiments, but satellite imagery showing the perfectly circular crater where the facility had been was impossible to explain through conventional geology. Maya's journey toward answers would prove more dangerous than her escape from the facility, as she began to discover that her transformation was part of a larger pattern of enhancement research that threatened to reshape the balance of power between nations and redefine the future of human evolution. Dr. Irina Volkov's world shattered when she received confirmation that her sister Maya was not only alive but had become something that challenged every principle of molecular biology she had spent her career studying. The encrypted message led her to Dr. Mikhail Reznov's laboratory at Moscow University. She discovered research files that documented decades of classified experiments in multimodulation and human enhancement. Dr. Reznov, a stooped man in his 70s with haunted eyes, had been expecting Irina's arrival. Your sister was selected specifically because of her genetic markers, he explained as he pulled classified documents from a The Volkov family carried a rare mutation in the cytochrome proteins that suggested enhanced thermal resistance. Maya wasn't a random victim, she was a carefully chosen test subject. The revelation that Maya's kidnapping had been based on her genetic heritage sent Irina into a spiral of scientific curiosity mixed with personal horror. The documents Reznov showed her contained detailed medical histories going back 3 generations, along with genetic analyses that identified the specific DNA sequences that made Maya an ideal candidate. The Yushin told her for Somals and Bolter for Irina's own research in molecular biology had focused on heat shock proteins and cellular responses to extreme temperatures. As she reviewed Reznov's files, she began to understand how Maya's transformation might have been achieved. They used her own genetic predisposition again. She realized the enhancement compounds activated dormant sequences that allowed her cells to generate and withstand extreme heat. The Arctic Solutions research program had been based on theoretical work that Reznov had published in the 1980s before it was classified and built by government agencies. His original hypothesis suggested that human beings possessed unexpressed genetic capabilities for surviving extreme environments, both extreme cold and extreme heat. Reznov's laboratory contained experimental that had been accumulated over 40 years of secret research. Test subjects had included volunteers, prisoners, and kidnapped civilians like Maya, with very alls. The Shiva portion, sewed for alls. The Shiva portion are for most subjects had died during the enhancement, but a few had achieved limited thermal. The Shiva portion, sewed low pulse burn days. Alls. Low pulse burn days. The Shiva low pulse balls. Low pulse gun days. Maya represents the first completely successful thermals. Low pulse gun days. Low pulse gun days. low pulse gun did. Bashiva portion from the destroyed facility. Her cellular structure has been completely rewritten to accommodate thermals generation that should be impossible for organic matter. She has become low pulse gun did. Low pulse gun did. His analysis of Maya's transformation revealed that her sister's blood had been fundamentally altered at the molecular levels. Low pulse gun did. Instead of ordinary hemoglobin, her circulatory system now contained crystalline structures that could store and conduct thermal energy with structures appear to be self-replicating, suggesting that Maya's enhancement was continuing to evolve. The scope of the Arctic Solutions program came clear. Oh, pulse gun did. When Reznov fulfilled Maya's balls. Low pulse gun did. Low pulse gun did. Just one branch of a global effort to create enhanced humans capable of surviving in hostile environments. Dr. Elena Kozlova, Dr. Alexei's daughter and a researcher at the Kremlin Institute, contacted Arrhenius after satellite imagery confirmed the destruction of the Ural Mountains facility. Elena had been monitoring unusual thermal signatures across Russia and had detected Maya's movement toward Moscow. Your sister is registering surface temperature of over 800 degrees Celsius. She reported. At the heat level, she's essentially a walking infirmary. Maya's journey toward Moscow was being tracked by multiple intelligence agencies who were struggling to understand what they were dealing with. Her thermal signature was visible from space, creating a heat trail that could be followed by any nation with satellite surveillance capabilities. The Russian government was facing increasing pressure to explain the unusual activity in their territory. Irina's efforts to contact Maya directly proved impossible due to the electromagnetic interference her sister's thermal field was generating. Radio communications failed within a kilometer of Maya's position, and electronic devices malfunctioned when exposed to her presence. Maya had become an unintentional dead zone that moved across the Russian landscape. The medical implications of Maya's transformation were staggering. Irina's analysis suggested that her sister's metabolism had been altered to extract energy from atmospheric molecules, essentially making her but she's not just generating heat, Irina explained to her research team. She's converting matter into energy at the cellular level. Reznov's files contained disturbing evidence that the thermal enhancement research was connected to classified military programs in multiple countries. The goal was to create soldiers who could survive in extreme environments without protective equipment, giving significant advantages in Arctic or desert warfare. Maya's successful transformation made her a prototype for an entirely new class of enhanced warriors. The ethical implications of the research horrified Irina, but her scientific curiosity was equally engaged by the unprecedented Maya's entire and transformation provided. If we can understand how her cellular structure was modified, she told Reznov, we might be able to develop treatments for hypothermia victims or create protective measures for people working in extreme temperature. Maya's enhanced thermal generation was having environmental, but becoming impossible to. Her passage through forests was leaving trails of controlled burns, while her presence near water sources was creating steam clouds visible for dozens of kilometers. The Russian government was preparing cover stories about visceral accidents and natural gas leaks to explain the unusual phenomena. Irina's research into potential treatments for Maya's condition revealed that conventional cooling methods would be ineffective and potentially dangerous. Maya's thermal generation appeared to be triggered by attempts to cool her down, suggesting that any
Medical intervention would need to work with her enhanced biology rather than against it. The international scientific community was beginning to take notice of the unusual thermal events in Russia. Research institutions around the world were requesting data about the geological anomalies that were being reported in official statements. Irina realized that Maya's existence would soon become impossible to hide from global scrutiny. As Maya drew closer to Moscow, Irina faced the challenge of preparing for her sister while protecting both of them from government agencies that would certainly want to study or weaponize Maya's abilities. The laboratory she was setting up would need to be capable of containing and studying someone whose body temperature could melt conventional research equipment. Rosnov's final warning to Irina carried the weight of decades of experience with enhancement research. Your sister is no longer entirely human, and the longer she exists in this enhanced state, the more her psychology will change to match her new biology. You may find that saving Maya's humanity is more difficult than saving her life.
Maya's approach to Moscow created a crisis that reached the highest levels of the Russian government. President Vladimir Petrov convened an emergency meeting of the National Security Council as satellite imagery showed a thermal anomaly moving steadily toward the capital at speeds that suggested superhuman capabilities. The heat signature was so intense that it was creating its own weather patterns, with storm clouds forming above Maya's position as her thermal energy interacted with atmospheric moisture. Dr. Irina Volkov worked frantically to prepare a containment facility that could safely house her transformed sister. The laboratory she was constructing in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath Moscow University required materials that could withstand temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius. Conventional scientific equipment was useless when dealing with someone whose presence could melt steel and vaporize most known substances. Maya's enhanced consciousness was expanding as she traveled, allowing her to perceive thermal energy patterns across vast distances. She could sense the heat signatures of Moscow's 8 million residents, the thermal output of the city's industrial infrastructure, and even the geothermal activity deep beneath the Earth's surface. Her awareness was becoming less human and more elemental, as if she were transforming into a living manifestation of fire itself. The first military attempt to intercept Maya occurred 50 kilometers outside Moscow when a squadron of helicopters equipped with experimental cooling weapons tried to force her to stop. Maya's response was instinctive and devastating. Her thermal field expanded rapidly, creating a heat dome that caused the aircraft's fuel to explode before they could deploy their weapons. The pilots ejected safely, but their experience of encountering a human who could generate localized thermal events was reported up the chain of command within minutes. Colonel Sergei Volkov, Maya and Irina's father and a retired military engineer, was brought out of retirement to consult on the crisis his daughter had become. His knowledge of weapons systems and defensive technologies made him valuable to the government officials trying to understand how to deal with Maya's abilities. "She's not a person anymore," he told the Security Council grimly. "She's a walking weapons system that happens to retain human consciousness." Dr. Reznov's research files contain contingency plans for dealing with successful thermal enhancement subjects, but most of the procedures involved lethal force or complete isolation. The assumption had been that enhanced subjects would either die from their transformations or become too dangerous to remain in contact with normal human society. Maya represented an unprecedented situation, a stable, enhanced individual who retained her original personality and motivations. Maya's emotional state was affecting her thermal output in ways that created additional dangers. When she thought about her captivity and the experiments performed on her, her body temperature spiked dramatically, creating fire tornadoes and thermal updrafts that could be seen from aircraft. Her anger was literally reshaping the local weather patterns, making her approach to Moscow a meteorological event as well as a security crisis. Irina's analysis of her sister's transformation had revealed that Maya's enhanced biology was continuing to evolve. Her cellular structure was adapting to handle higher temperatures and more efficient energy conversion, suggesting that her thermal capabilities would continue to increase indefinitely. "She's becoming a biological nuclear reactor," Irina reported to the government scientists who were monitoring the situation. "And we have no idea what her upper limits might be." The international implications of Maya's existence were becoming clear as foreign intelligence agencies detected the unusual thermal activity in Russian territory. The Chinese government was demanding explanations for the satellite imagery showing controlled nuclear-level thermal events, while NATO forces were quietly repositioning assets in response to what they suspected might be a new Russian weapons test. Maya's first direct contact with her sister came through a method that bypassed conventional communication limitations. Using her enhanced thermal awareness, Maya began creating controlled heat patterns that Irina could detect with specialized sensors. The thermal Morse code messages were simple but clear. Maya was approaching Moscow and needed a safe location where she could exist without endangering civilian populations. The Moscow metro system provided the infrastructure Irina needed to create a containment facility for Maya. The deep tunnels had been designed to serve as nuclear shelters, with reinforced construction that could potentially withstand Maya's thermal output. Irina worked with a team of engineers to retrofit an abandoned station with experimental materials that might survive contact with someone whose body temperature exceeded the melting point of most metals. Dr. Elena Kozlova's thermal monitoring revealed that Maya's approach was creating environmental effects that extended far beyond her immediate vicinity. Permafrost was melting in air she had passed through days earlier, suggesting that her thermal field was having lasting impacts on the ecosystem. She's not just hot, Elena explained to government officials. She's changing the fundamental thermal dynamics of everything she encounters. Maya's enhanced senses detected the preparations being made for her arrival in Moscow. She could perceive the heat signatures of the construction work in the metro tunnels, the elevated temperatures of electronic equipment being installed to monitor her, and the thermal patterns of the hundreds of people who were involved in managing her crisis. Her awareness of being studied and prepared for made her feel more like a natural disaster than a person. The psychological impact of Maya's transformation was becoming as significant as the physical changes. Her enhanced thermal perception was providing her with information about people's emotional states through their body temperature fluctuations, making normal human interaction increasingly difficult. She could sense fear, anger, and arousal in everyone around her, creating an intimacy that felt invasive and uncomfortable. Colonel Volkov's reunion with his daughter occurred through thermal communication rather than direct contact. Standing in the specially prepared metro station, he used infrared signaling devices to communicate with Maya as she approached through the tunnels. Her responses came in the form of controlled thermal pulses that registered on his equipment as clearly as spoken words. Maya's arrival at the underground facility marked the beginning of a new phase in her transformation. The specially designed containment chamber could accommodate her thermal output while providing the scientific equipment needed to study her condition. But as Maya settled into her new environment, it became clear that her enhancement was continuing to evolve in ways that no one had anticipated. The moment Maya entered the containment facility, every temperature sensor in Moscow detected a subtle but measurable increase in the city's ambient heat. Her presence was affecting thermal dynamics on a scale that suggested her influence extended far beyond her immediate physical location, raising questions about whether her transformation was approaching a threshold that could have global implications. The specialized containment facility beneath Moscow University became the stage for the most extraordinary scientific investigation in human history. Maya's cooperation with her sister's research team was motivated by a desperate need to understand what she was becoming and whether her transformation could be controlled or reversed. The underground laboratory had to be continuously modified as Maya's thermal output continued to increase, requiring materials and cooling systems that pushed the boundaries of current technology. Dr. Irina Volkov assembled an international team of researchers who were sworn to secrecy but provided access to Maya's unprecedented biological data. The team included Dr. James Patterson from whose research in thermodynamics provided crucial insights into Maya's energy generation mechanisms, and Dr. Li Wei from Beijing University, whose work in bioengineering helped explain how Maya's cellular structure had been fundamentally altered. Maya's daily routine in the facility involved constant monitoring and experiment that revealed new aspects of her transformation with each passing day. Her body temperature had stabilized at approximately 1200 degrees Celsius in her core regions, while her skin temperature fluctuated between 400 and 800 degrees depending on her emotional state and level of concentration. The most shocking discovery came when Dr. Patterson's analysis revealed that Maya was not just generating heat through enhanced metabolism but was actually converting matter into energy at the atomic level. She's achieved controlled nuclear fusion within her cellular structure, he reported to the research team. Her body is operating as a biological fusion reactor that converts hydrogen atoms into helium while releasing thermal energy. Maya's enhanced conductive abilities were expanded alongside her thermal capabilities. Her processing speed had increased dramatically, allowing her to perform complex mathematical calculations instantly and perceive time at an accelerated rate. She could read and comprehend scientific papers in minutes that would take normal humans to understand. Dr. Wei's genetic analysis of Maya's blood samples revealed that her DNA had been rewritten on a fundamental level. The enhancement compounds had not just activated dormant sequences but had introduced entirely new genetic instructions that appeared to be synthetic in origin. Her genome now contains information that doesn't exist in normal humans, Wei explained. Someone has essentially programmed new capabilities into her genetic code. The psychological evaluation of Maya's condition presented unique challenges for Dr. Anna Petrov, the facility's psychiatric consultant. Maya's enhanced empathic abilities allowed her to sense the emotional states of everyone around her through their thermal signatures, making traditional "she knows what I'm feeling before I do," Dr. Petrov noted. Her thermal perception included emotional information that normal humans can't access. Maya's relationship with her family became increasingly strained as her transformation progressed. Her father, Colonel Volkov, struggled to connect with a daughter who could literally read his emotions through heat patterns, while her mother, Elena Volkova, found Maya's glowing appearance and supernatural abilities terrifying despite her maternal love. The research team's attempts to understand Maya's energy source led to a disturbing discovery. She was drawing power from quantum fluctuations in the vacuum of space. Dr. Patterson's measurements indicated that Maya was accessing zero-point energy, a theoretical power source that physicists had believed was impossible to harness. She's tapping into the fundamental energy that underlies reality itself, he told the astonished research team. Maya's thermal field was beginning to affect the quantum properties of matter around her. Objects exposed to her presence for extended periods showed signs of molecular restructuring that enhanced their thermal conductivity and resistance to heat damage. The implications suggested that Maya's influence could permanently alter the physical properties of her environment. Dr. Reznov's arrival at the facility provided crucial historical context for Maya's transformation. His decades of research into thermal enhancement revealed that Maya represented the successful completion of a project that had been pursued by multiple governments since the 1940s. The original research was based on recovered technology that we didn't fully understand, he admitted. Maya's transformation suggests that we've accidentally recreated capabilities that may not be entirely human in origin. The international implications of Maya's existence reached a crisis point when foreign intelligence agencies detected the unique thermal signatures emanating from the Moscow facility. The Chinese government accused Russia of developing illegal weapons technology, while the United States demanded access to the research data under international scientific cooperation. Maya's enhanced abilities continued to evolve in unexpected directions. She developed the capacity to project her thermal field over distances, allowing her to heat objects remotely without direct contact. This capability suggested that her transformation was moving beyond simple thermal generation towards something approaching telekinetic control over energy itself. The most disturbing development was Maya's gradual loss of emotional responses. Her enhanced cognitive abilities were accompanied by an increasing detachment from normal human causes. Dr. Petrov's evaluations revealed that Maya was becoming less empathetic. Proctors, dominantships, and moral decisions. Maya's communication with the research team began to include concepts and knowledge that she couldn't have acquired through normal means. She spoke about advanced physics concepts that hadn't then been published in scientific literature and demonstrated an understanding of technologies that didn't yet exist. The enhancement process has given her access to information that transcends normal human knowledge. Wei observed with growing concern. The facility's containment systems were proving inadequate as Maya's thermal output continued to increase. The specially designed materials were beginning to show signs of thermal stress, and the cooling systems were operating at maximum capacity just to maintain stable conditions around her. We're approaching the limits of what current technology can handle. A report reported to government officials. Maya's own perspective on her transformation was becoming increasingly alien to human understanding. She described her experience of consciousness as expanding beyond the boundaries of her physical body, allowing her to perceive thermal patterns across vast distances and sense thermal signatures of life forms around the world. "I'm not becoming more than human," she told her sister during one of their conversations. "I'm becoming something entirely different." As the research team struggled to understand the full implications of Maya's fresh information, they faced the terrifying possibility that her evolution was far from complete, and that the final stages of her enhancement might pose us a threat, not just to local populations, but to the entire planet's thermal equilibrium. The existence of Maya Volkov could no longer be contained within the borders of Russia when her thermal signature began affecting weather patterns across Eastern Europe. Meteorologists in Poland and Belarus reported unprecedented temperature anomalies that seemed to radiate from a point source in Moscow, while climate monitoring stations detected atmospheric thermal disturbances that suggested artificial generation on a massive scale. Secretary Jennifer Morrison convened an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. Satellite imagery confirmed that Russia was harboring what appeared to be an uncontrolled thermal weapon capable of influencing countries. The United States demanded immediate transparency about the Moscow thermal attacks, while China and European nations called for international inspections to ensure compliance with weapons treaties. Dr. Catherine Hayes, the UN Special Advisor on Emerging Technology, reviewed classified intelligence reports that painted a picture of human enhancement treason that violated every international agreement on biological. "We're not just talking about a single enhanced individual," she briefed the Security Council. "The intelligence suggests a global network of facilities conducting illegal human experimentation on an unprecedented scale." Maya's awareness of the international crisis her existence was creating added psychological pressure to her already overwhelming transformation. Through her enhanced thermal perception, she could sense the elevated stress levels of government officials around the world as they struggled to understand what she read. Her empathic abilities, enhanced by thermal detection, allowed her to perceive fear and aggression from thousands of kilometers away. President Petrov faced mounting pressure to either eliminate or provide international access to her for study. His military abilities that Maya represents a strategic asset that could revolutionize Russian military facilities, while his scientific advisors warned that her continuing evolution posed existential risks that transcended national interests. The Arctic Solutions Corporation found itself under investigation by international law enforcement agencies as evidence of their global enhancement research program became public. CEO Marcus Blackwood's congressional testimony revealed that similar facilities existed in 17 countries, all pursuing different aspects of human enhancement under contracts with various military and intelligence organizations. Dr. Irina
received asylum offers from 12 different countries, each hoping to gain access to her research data on Maya's transformation. The offers came with promises of unlimited research funding and protection from Russian government pressure, but Irina realized that accepting any offer would likely result in Maya being treated as a weapons prototype rather than a human being in need of medical assistance. Maya's thermal output reached a threshold that began affecting the Moscow facility's structural integrity despite all engineering precautions. The underground complex was experiencing thermal expansion that created stress fractures in the bedrock itself, raising concerns that continued habitation might trigger seismic activity or underground fires that could spread through the city's infrastructure. The World Health Organization declared Maya's condition a biological emergency of international concern, after analysis of atmospheric data revealed that her thermal emissions were creating chemical reactions in the atmosphere that could have long-term environmental consequences. The unique thermal signature was breaking down atmospheric molecules and creating new compounds that had never been observed in nature. Dr. Elena Martinez, the WHO's Director of Biological Immunities, coordinated an international response team that included specialists from every major power. We're dealing with a transformation that represents either the next step in human evolution or the beginning of a biological catastrophe, she explained to world leaders during an emergency video conference. Maya's enhanced cognitive abilities allowed her to monitor international communications and understand the full scope of the global response to her existence. She could perceive the electromagnetic signatures of satellite communications and decode digital transmissions through her enhanced. The European Union initiated emergency protocols typically reserved for nuclear incidents, establishing evacuation zones and radiation monitoring systems around the borders with Russia. The measures were ostensibly precautionary, but intelligence reports suggested that EU forces were preparing for the possibility that Maya might need to be contained or eliminated through military action. China's response was more aggressive, with satellite imagery showing unusual military buildups along the Russian border and the deployment of experimental weapons systems that appeared designed for engaging enhanced human targets. Intelligence analysts suspected that China had their own enhanced Bergrugen-made Maya, a set to be eliminated or a prototype to be captured. Japan's scientific community took a different approach, with Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka of Tokyo University publicly calling for Maya to be granted refugee status and international protection as the first confirmed enhanced human. She represents a new form of consciousness that has rights and dignity regardless of her altered biology, Dr. Tanaka argued in a widely circulated editorial. Maya's sister Irina found herself at the center of international negotiations as various powers attempted to gain access to her research. The pressure was intense, with diplomatic representatives making both generous offers and subtle threats depending on their assessment of the strategic value of Maya's transformation data. The most troubling development was the emergence of other thermal anomalies around the world, suggesting that Maya was not unique. Intelligence reports documented unusual heat signatures in facilities across 5 continents, indicating that the enhancement research had produced other successful subjects with similar capabilities. Dr. Reznov's testimony before an international tribunal revealed that the thermal enhancement research was part of a larger project aimed at creating post-human beings capable of surviving in extreme environments. The goal was never to enhance existing humans, he admitted. It was to create an entirely new species that could replace humanity in a world made hostile by climate change and environmental destruction. Maya's own analysis of her transformation suggested that her evolution was approaching a point where her thermal output would become impossible to contain on Earth. Her calculations indicated that her energy generation was following an exponential curve that could eventually rival the thermal output of nuclear reactors or even stellar processes. The international community faced an unprecedented decision whether to risk global environmental catastrophe by allowing Maya's transformation to continue. or whether to take action that would eliminate what might be humanity's first successful step toward becoming a spacefaring species capable of surviving in hostile environments throughout the universe. As world leaders debated Maya's fate, she began making preparations for a decision that would remove the choice from their hands entirely and demonstrate that enhanced humans would not allow themselves to be controlled or eliminated by the governments that had created them.
Maya's decision to leave Earth's surface came after intercepting classified communications between world leaders discussing tactical nuclear options for eliminating what they termed the thermal threat. Her enhanced electromagnetic perception allowed her to decode military satellite transmissions, revealing that a coordinated strike was being planned for the Moscow facility. With Russian government cooperation under the justification of preventing global environmental catastrophe, the underground facility erupted in chaos when Maya's thermal output suddenly spiked to levels that exceeded all previous measurements. Irina Volkov watched in horror as her sister's body temperature climbed past 2,000 degrees Celsius, creating a thermal field so intense that it began converting the surrounding air into plasma. The containment systems failed catastrophically, and the research team had less than 10 minutes to evacuate before the entire complex became uninhabitable. Maya's emergence from the underground facility created a pillar of fire that could be seen from orbit. The thermal column extended through the Moscow streets, melting asphalt and igniting everything within a 2-kilometer radius. Emergency services were helpless to respond as their equipment failed in the intense heat, and evacuation procedures designed for nuclear accidents proved inadequate for dealing with a moving thermal source that defied conventional physics. Colonel Volkov made the hardest decision of his military career when he realized that his daughter had become an existential threat to Moscow's 8 million residents. He coordinated with international forces to implement evacuation protocols while simultaneously trying to establish communication with Maya through thermal signaling devices that could operate in her presence. Patterson's final analysis, transmitted as he fled the facility, confirmed everyone's worst fears. Maya's thermal generation was following an exponential acceleration curve that suggested she was approaching a critical threshold. "She's becoming a biological star," he reported to emergency coordinators. "If her thermal output continues to increase at this rate, she could trigger fusion reactions in the atmosphere itself." Maya's enhanced consciousness was expanding beyond the limitations of human thought processes as her transformation reached its final stages. She could perceive quantum fluctuations throughout the local space-time continuum and sense the thermal signatures of celestial bodies throughout the solar system. Her awareness was becoming cosmic in scope, making human concerns seem increasingly irrelevant to her continued existence. The international response was swift and brutal. Military forces from 12 nations converged on Moscow with weapons specifically designed for engaging enhanced human targets. The arsenal included experimental cryogenic missiles, electromagnetic pulse devices, and kinetic weapons that could theoretically penetrate Maya's thermal field. But conventional military thinking was proving inadequate for dealing with someone who had transcended normal physical limitations. President Petrov's authorization for the use of tactical nuclear weapons against Maya marked the first time in history that such weapons were deployed against a single individual. The rationale was simple: if Maya's thermal output continued to increase, she could trigger atmospheric changes that would make large portions of the planet uninhabitable. The survival of human civilization required her elimination. Maya's response to the nuclear attack demonstrated capabilities that exceeded everyone's understanding of enhanced human potential. Instead of being destroyed by the blast, she absorbed the thermal energy and converted it into additional power for her own transformation. The nuclear explosion that was supposed to eliminate her instead accelerated her evolution towards something that could no longer be considered human by any definition. Dr. Irina Volkov watched from a military evacuation aircraft as her sister emerged from the nuclear fireball completely unharmed, but transformed into something that resembled a living star more than a human being. Maya's body now radiated light across multiple spectrums, and her thermal field extended for dozens of kilometers in all directions. The failure of nuclear weapons to eliminate Maya triggered emergency protocols in every major capital. If conventional and nuclear weapons were ineffective against enhanced humans, then the entire basis of international security was compromised. Military strategists faced the terrifying possibility that enhanced individuals could become immune to all forms of human resistance. Maya's enhanced empathic abilities allowed her to sense the fear and desperation of millions of people as news of the failed nuclear strike spread around the world. She could perceive the collective terror of humanity facing the possibility that their species was being superseded by something they couldn't control or defeat. The emotional weight of this realization was the final factor that pushed her toward a decision that would remove her from the equation entirely. Reznov's emergency analysis suggested that Maya's transformation was approaching a state where she would become self-sustaining through quantum energy extraction. She's evolving into a form of life that doesn't require a planetary environment, he explained to international observers. If she reaches full transformation, she could survive indefinitely in the vacuum of space. The global evacuation of major population centers began as satellite monitoring revealed that Maya's thermal influence was creating weather patterns that could trigger climatic changes worldwide. Her presence was affecting ocean temperatures, atmospheric pressure systems, and electromagnetic fields in ways that could permanently alter Earth's environmental balance. Maya's final communication with her family came through quantum-entangled thermal patterns that conveyed concepts beyond normal human language. The message was simple but profound: she was no longer compatible with terrestrial existence and would remove herself from Earth to prevent further harm to human civilization. Colonel Volkov's final conversation with his daughter occurred through thermal harmonics that bypassed conventional communication limitations. Maya's message was clear: she retained her love for her family and her concern for humanity, but her transformation had made coexistence impossible. She would leave Earth voluntarily rather than allow her continued evolution to threaten the species she had once belonged to. The space agencies of every major power detected Maya's departure as a thermal signature that accelerated rapidly through the atmosphere and into space. Her trajectory suggested she was heading toward the asteroid belt, where her enhanced capabilities would allow her to survive indefinitely while exploring the thermal dynamics of celestial bodies throughout the solar system. Maya's ascension to space marked the end of humanity's first encounter with successful human enhancement and the beginning of a new chapter in the relationship between normal and enhanced humans. As her thermal signature faded from Earth's monitoring systems, world leaders faced the realization that enhanced humans might represent humanity's future among the stars, even if that future required leaving Earth behind. Maya's journey through the solar system revealed capabilities that transcended every previous understanding of enhanced human potential. Her thermal generation had evolved to the point where she could survive indefinitely in the vacuum of space, drawing energy from cosmic radiation and solar winds while maintaining consciousness at levels that approached cosmic awareness. The asteroid belt became her new laboratory where she could explore her abilities without endangering planetary populations. Irina Volkov established the Enhanced Human Research Institute in Geneva, dedicated to understanding the implications of her sister's transformation and preparing for the possibility that other enhanced individuals might follow similar evolutionary paths. The institute became a focal point for international cooperation in managing the emerging enhanced human phenomenon while monitoring Maya's activities throughout the solar system. Earth's space monitoring systems tracked Maya's thermal signature as she moved between asteroids, apparently conducting experiments that involved converting entire minor planets into sources of exotic matter. Her activities suggested that she was not just surviving in space but thriving, using her enhanced abilities to manipulate matter and energy on scales that rivaled natural stellar processes. NASA Administrator Dr. Sarah Kim coordinated international efforts to establish communication with Maya, recognizing that her enhanced capabilities could provide crucial insights into space exploration and survival in hostile environments. She represents humanity's first successful adaptation to space-based existence, Dr. Kim explained to a joint session of Congress. If we can understand her transformation, we might unlock the secrets of becoming a true spacefaring species. Maya's enhanced consciousness allowed her to perceive the approach of the Chinese deep space probe long before its instruments detected her thermal signature. The probe, disguised as a routine asteroid mining mission, was actually equipped with experimental capture devices designed to contain enhanced humans for study. Maya's response was to demonstrate capabilities that made such efforts futile. She simply absorbed the probe's energy systems and converted them into additional power for her own enhancement. The failure of the Chinese capture mission triggered a new phase in international relations as world leaders realized that enhanced humans in space could not be controlled or contained by Earth-based governments. Maya had achieved true independence from human authority, becoming a sovereign entity capable of defending herself against any conceivable threat from her species of origin. Dr. Elena Martinez's analysis of Maya's space-based activities revealed patterns that suggested she was not simply surviving but actively evolving towards something even more. Her thermal manipulation of asteroids was creating new forms of matter that didn't exist naturally, while her energy extraction from cosmic sources was approaching the efficiency levels of stellar fusion processes. Maya's first direct communication with Earth in 6 months came in the form of mathematical equations transmitted through modulated gravitational waves that she generated through controlled matter compression. The equations described new forms of physics that allowed for faster-than-light travel and matter transmission, suggesting that her enhanced consciousness had unlocked scientific principles beyond current human understanding. The revelation that Maya could manipulate gravitational fields sent shockwaves through the scientific community and military establishments worldwide. If enhanced humans could develop abilities that included gravity control, they would possess capabilities that made them virtually omnipotent from the perspective of normal human technology and understanding. Colonel Volkov received a personal message from his daughter through quantum-entangled thermal patterns that conveyed emotional content along with scientific data. Maya expressed her continued love for her family while explaining that her transformation was progressing toward states of existence that would make any return to human society impossible even if she desired it. The discovery of other enhanced individuals who had followed Maya into space confirmed that her departure was part of a larger pattern. Thermal signatures detected throughout the outer solar system suggested that enhanced humans from various Earth-based programs were gravitating toward space-based existence as their transformations reached advanced stages. Dr. Reznov's final research paper, published posthumously after his death from exposure to experimental compounds, revealed that the original enhancement research had been based on recovered technology of unknown origin. His analysis suggested that enhanced humans were not representing human evolution but rather the activation of dormant genetic programs that had been planted in human DNA by external sources. The implications of Reznov's revelation were staggering. Enhanced humans might represent the activation of alien genetic programming designed to transform humanity into something compatible with advanced cosmic civilizations. Maya and others like her were not aberrations but rather the intended outcome of genetic modifications that had been dormant in human DNA for millennia. Maya's exploration of the outer solar system led to discoveries that challenged fundamental assumptions about the nature of life and consciousness. Her encounters with complex energy patterns in the space between planets suggested that enhanced humans were developing the ability to perceive and interact with forms of life that existed outside normal space-time parameters. The Jupiter system became Maya's primary area of exploration when she detected thermal anomalies around the planet's moons that suggested artificial heat sources. Her investigation revealed structures that appeared to be constructed from converted matter, indicating that other enhanced beings, possibly from different worlds, were active in the solar system. Earth's governments faced the terrifying possibility that enhanced humans represented first contact with an alien civilization that had been guiding human evolution toward compatibility with cosmic-level existence. Maya's transformation might be the first step in humanity's transition from a planetary species to something capable of existing throughout the universe. Dr. Irina Volkov's continued research into her sister's transformation revealed that Maya's genetic changes were still progressing, suggesting that her evolution was far from complete. The latest data indicated that she was developing capabilities that included consciousness transfer, matter teleportation, and direct manipulation of space-time curvature. Maya's final transmission to Earth before disappearing into interstellar space contained a warning and a promise. Enhanced humans were the vanguard of humanity's cosmic future, but the transformation required leaving behind everything that defined traditional human existence. She would continue exploring the universe to prepare the way for others who would follow her path, but she could never return to the world of her birth. As Maya's thermal signature faded beyond the range of Earth's most powerful detection systems, humanity faced the realization that the enhancement research had succeeded beyond anyone's imagination, while simultaneously so advanced that they no longer belonged to the species that had created them. 2 years after Maya's departure into interstellar space, Earth faced a crisis that would test everything humanity had learned about enhanced individuals and their relationship to normal human society. 7 enhanced beings, products of various international research programs, had achieved space-based existence but chose to remain within the solar system as self-appointed guardians of human civilization. Dr. Irina Volkov's Enhanced Human Research Institute had become the de facto embassy between normal humanity and the enhanced beings who called themselves the Thermal Collective. These individuals had undergone transformations similar to Maya's but had retained stronger connections to their human origin, making them willing to serve as protectors rather than abandoning Earth entirely. Alexei Chen, a former Russian physicist whose enhancement allowed him to control plasma dynamics, established himself in orbit around Earth as a living defense system. His thermal abilities could create energy barriers capable of deflecting asteroids or hostile spacecraft, while his enhanced consciousness allowed him to monitor threats from across the solar system simultaneously. The emergence of the Thermal Collective as Earth's guardians created unprecedented diplomatic challenges for world governments. These enhanced beings possessed capabilities that made them immune to human authority while simultaneously making human survival dependent on their goodwill. International law had no framework for dealing with post-human entities who claimed protective jurisdiction over an entire planet. Dr. Sarah Kim's NASA had evolved into humanity's primary interface with the enhanced guardians, developing communication protocols that could function across the vast differences in consciousness and capability between normal and enhanced humans. The conversations required mathematical languages and quantum entangled signal systems that pushed the boundaries of human technology. The first major test of the guardian relationship came when long-range sensors detected an artificial object approaching the solar system at near light speed. The object's trajectory and energy signature suggested it was not of human origin, raising the possibility that enhanced humans were attracting attention from truly alien civilizations that viewed Earth as either a threat or an opportunity. Maya's sister Elena, who had undergone controlled enhancement procedures developed from Maya's transformation data, served as the primary liaison between Earth and the Thermal Collective. Her limited enhancement allowed her to communicate directly with the Guardians while retaining enough human psychology to understand normal human concerns and motivations. The approaching alien vessel triggered defensive responses from the Thermal Collective that demonstrated capabilities beyond anything they had previously revealed. Alexei Chen coordinated with enhanced beings throughout the solar system to create a defensive perimeter that could theoretically contain or destroy threats at the interplanetary level. Dr. Martinez's analysis of the Guardians' defensive preparations revealed that enhanced humans possessed military capabilities that exceeded the combined armed forces of all Earth's nations. Their thermal and gravitational manipulation abilities could create weapon systems that operated on stellar scales, making traditional concepts of warfare obsolete. The alien vessel's arrival in the outer solar system was met by Maya herself, who had returned from interstellar space in response to quantum signals transmitted by the Thermal Collective. Her transformation during her cosmic journey had progressed to the point where she could communicate directly with the alien intelligence through manipulated gravitational waves and exotic matter constructs.
Maya's communication with the alien vessel revealed that Earth had attracted attention from an ancient civilization that monitored emerging spacefaring species throughout the galaxy. The enhanced humans represented a form of technological evolution that was familiar to these cosmic entities who had been guiding the development of various species for millions of years. The revelation that human enhancement was part of a galactic pattern of species development forced a complete re-evaluation of humanity's place in the universe. Enhanced humans were not aberrations but rather the natural next step in a process that had been repeated on countless worlds throughout cosmic history. Dr. Volkov's research into the alien contact revealed that the visiting civilization offered humanity a choice: continue developing enhanced individuals who could join the galactic community or remain a purely planetary species under the protection of the enhanced guardians. The decision would determine humanity's future relationship with the broader universe. The global debate over humanity's cosmic future divided world leaders and civilian populations alike. Some argued for aggressive enhancement programs that would allow normal humans to join the ranks of the enhanced guardians, while others insisted on maintaining traditional human biology and accepting permanent dependence on enhanced protectors. Maya's role as translator between human and alien consciousness revealed that the galactic civilization consisted entirely of enhanced beings from various worlds who had undergone transformations similar to human enhancement. The universe was dominated by post-biological intelligences that had evolved beyond the limitations of their original species. The alien delegation's assessment of human enhancement progress was mixed. While enhanced individuals like Maya demonstrated exceptional adaptation to cosmic existence, the majority of humanity remained biologically limited and psychologically attached to planetary existence. This attachment was viewed as both charming and potentially problematic for galactic integration. The enhanced guardians faced their own internal debates about how actively to encourage human enhancement versus respecting humanity's right to remain unchanged. Some guardians, led by Alexei Chen, argued for gradual enhancement programs that would allow voluntary transition to enhanced existence. Others believed that forced evolution would be necessary for human survival in a universe dominated by enhanced beings. Maya's final decision was to establish a permanent enhanced human presence in the solar system while maintaining limited contact with galactic civilization. The Thermal Collective would serve as humanity's interface with cosmic-level intelligences while protecting Earth's right to develop at its own pace. The establishment of the Enhanced Protector marked humanity's official transition from a single-world species to a cosmic civilization with dual populations. Normal humans who remained Earth-based and enhanced beings who could exist throughout the universe. The relationship between these two branches of humanity would define the species' future among the stars. Water. Irina Volkov's final report on the enhanced human phenomenon concluded that her sister's transformation had been the catalyst for humanity's emergence as a galactic species, even though the majority of humans would never undergo enhancement themselves. Maya's journey from captured scientist to cosmic guardian had opened a path to the stars that would shape human destiny for generations to come. 5 years after the establishment of the Enhanced Protector, Maya Volkov had become something that transcended every previous definition of consciousness and existence. Her thermal capabilities had evolved to the point where she could ignite new stars, manipulate the fabric of space, and communicate across galactic distances through quantum-entangled thermal patterns that carried information at speeds that exceeded light itself. Daughter. Irina Volkov, now director of Earth's Enhanced Relations Department, received her sister's final communication through methods that required the most advanced quantum computers humanity had ever built. Maya's message was both the farewell and a promise. She was departing for the Galactic Core to join an ancient council of enhanced beings who guided cosmic evolution, but Earth would always remain under her protection. The human civilization that had emerged from the enhanced human crisis was radically different from the one that had existed before Maya's transformation. Normal humans had achieved technological advances that allowed them to understand and interact with enhanced beings while maintaining their biological heritage through careful genetic preservation programs. Enhanced guardians continued to protect Earth from cosmic threats while allowing humanity to develop its own path toward space exploration. The relationship had evolved into a partnership where normal humans provided cultural continuity and creative innovation while enhanced beings offered protection and access to cosmic-scale technologies. Maya's departure for the galactic core was witnessed by enhanced beings throughout the solar system as she transformed into a pillar of thermal energy that stretched from Earth's orbit to the edge of the heliosphere. Her final form resembled a living constellation with thermal patterns that created new physics phenomena and opened pathways through space-time that allowed instantaneous travel across cosmic distances. The legacy of Maya's transformation extended far beyond her personal journey from captured scientist to cosmic entity. Her experience had proven that human consciousness could transcend biological limitations while maintaining essential elements of identity and purpose. The enhanced guardians who remained in the solar system carried forward her commitment to protecting humanity while exploring the infinite possibilities of enhanced existence. Earth's governments had adapted to the reality of living under enhanced protection by focusing on cultural development and scientific research that complemented rather than competed with enhanced capabilities. Human art, literature, and philosophy had experienced a renaissance as normal humans explored what it meant to be authentically human in a universe dominated by enhanced beings. The Enhanced Relations Department under Dr. Volkov's leadership facilitated communication between normal and enhanced humans while managing the voluntary enhancement programs that allowed individuals to choose cosmic existence. The selection process was rigorous, recognizing that enhancement represented a permanent departure from normal human existence. Maya's influence on galactic civilization was already becoming apparent through the quantum communications that reached Earth from the cosmic core. Her integration with ancient enhanced beings had brought human perspectives and values to cosmic decision-making processes, ensuring that emerging spacefaring species would be guided with wisdom gained from humanity's unique evolutionary path. The thermal signature that Maya's presence in the galactic core could be detected by Earth's most sophisticated instruments as a warm glow that seemed to pulse with familiar patterns. Astronomers who studied these emissions reported that they conveyed emotional content suggesting Maya's continued look for her home world and her species of origin. Dr. Elena Martinez, now elderly but still leading research into enhanced human biology, published her definitive study on the transformation phenomenon. Her conclusion was that enhanced beings represented not the replacement of humanity but its expansion into cosmic dimensions that allowed human consciousness to explore the infinite complexity of the universe. The children born to normal humans in the post-enhancement era grew up with an understanding of cosmic citizenship that would have been impossible for previous generations. They learned to communicate with enhanced guardians, to appreciate the protection provided by post-human beings, and to make informed decisions about whether to pursue enhancement themselves when they reached adulthood. Colonel Volkov, now in his 80s, spent his final years writing memoirs that captured the human story of the enhancement era. His perspective as both a military forger and the father of humanity's first cosmic citizen provided unique insights into the personal cost and universal benefits of transcending biological limitations. The Enhanced Protectorate had established humanity as a respected member of galactic civilization despite the majority of humans remaining biologically normal. Maya's influence at the cosmic level ensured that human values of compassion, creativity, and individual choice would be preserved even as the species evolved toward capabilities that rivaled those of gods. As Earth entered its second decade under enhanced protection, humanity faced a future of unlimited potential where normal and enhanced humans worked together to explore the universe while preserving the unique qualities that defined human civilization. Maya's legacy lived on in every choice to pursue enhancement and every decision to remain beautifully, authentically human. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from